same amplifiers. They both utilize the same antennas and transmit antenna and receive antennas and so forth. They got both of them exactly the same coverage. The only difference between them is the tone, the CTCSS tone. That's the only difference. But the receive antenna is right at 900 feet, and the transmit antenna is about 850 feet. And they both have 100-watt amplifiers on them. They both go through a set of combiners down in the building that combine the two transmitters out on the same antenna. The receive antenna's got a receiver coupler and preamp on it, bandpass filters. Allows both receivers to operate simultaneously off the same antenna. And both of them are commercial Kenwood TKR 830 repeaters. They put out about 5 watts max to drive those two Motorola amplifiers. And by the time you push a little power through the combiners and get them out to the antenna, they're running about 25 or 30 watts apiece.
Roger, Dave. Talking with Dave, N9CVA, and about the 444-200 repeater, which is, I must say, Dave, an outstanding repeater system. Footprint's got to be 60 miles or so. Would you estimate that?
Yeah, thereabouts. Both of the antennas are commercial UHF high gain antennas. They're 11.3 dB gain.
Roger, combined with being where they are on the HAS tower, and then how high are the knobs themselves?
Oh, the antennas, the knobs, the location where the tower's at is 891 feet at the base of the tower. And then the tower itself is 902 feet to the base of the WHAS transmitting antenna, which is another 78 feet, if I remember right. And of course the receive antenna is about, I'd say it's probably the base of the antenna itself is about 10 feet above the platform, which is 886 feet up there at the top. So you can figure the antenna is about 986 feet thereabout, and then the antenna itself is another 20 feet long. So it's up there.
Roger, and definitely does show in the footprint. There was a time when the electronics were up halfway up the tower also. Roger, tell me about that.
Yeah, at one time or another, the whole repeater itself, the repeater, power supply, the duplexer, everything was all up there on top of the tower. When .2 first came into existence, it had a single antenna over on the railing, the 886 platform railing, and it was a little mobile duplexers in there, and the repeater would run 25 watts. It was a TKR 850 commercial repeater, Kenwood repeater. And it had a standard controller on it, built-in controller. It didn't have an RC85 controller like these do now. But it sat up there for a lot of years. We worked in conjunction with the 444.5 repeater, which is no longer around. That was Stu Hagg, W4MO. That was his repeater. Of course, his ran on split antennas, and it was could hear a little better and could talk a little further than the .2 at the time. And then when Stu retired and moved south to Florida, well, we basically just took over the antenna system, and when the repeater was up on the tower, at the time the 442.3 repeater was on split antennas down the tower about 750 feet and thereabout. But then when Business Radio closed their doors, when Stu retired, we took over the combiners and the receiver multi-couplers and so forth, retuned all that into the amateur bands, which worked out real well. And we're lucky enough to remain at the WHAS site, and it is what it is today.
Roger. It particularly has an infinity towards going south, I guess, because it's on the south bluff of the knobs. It really seems to love going south, Roger.
Well, pretty much so. It's on that southwest leg of the tower, I guess you'd say. Of course, the antenna itself is omnidirectional, but set up omnidirectional. But it does have pretty good coverage to the south. It hears good to the south because the antenna is right up there on the top of the tower, basically in the center of the tower footprint, so not out on the railing like the rest of the antennas are. So, but the transmit antenna there at 850 foot level is on the southwest leg. Yeah.
Roger, Roger, and it is side mounted on the south side of the tower, Roger.
Pretty much so, yeah. It's side mounted, but it's on the southwest leg. The southwest leg being, pointing that direction, of course.
Roger. Well, it and I guess the 444-300 is a well-guarded secret repeater because it doesn't get much use, but it's every bit as effective as the 200.
It's 442.300. And now that's always been a mystery to me why people don't want to use that repeater for some reason or another, because they both have exactly the same footprint.
Roger, Roger, and that's 442-300. Is that a Roger?
444.3, 442.3, and it has a CTCS of 146.2, and that belongs to Roger, WB9GNA.
Roger. Now, I think I could be wrong, but I thought I was copying the mail of that repeater out towards Frenchtown at one time.
It was there at one time or another, and it was moved over onto the tower at the 750-foot level, I don't know, several years ago, back before we went to HD TV, as a matter of fact. And then after they took the side-mounted channel 55 antenna off the tower, well, then we moved it up to the top. And no, we didn't. No. After we moved everything down into the building and you reutilized the business radio antenna system, that's when we moved to 442.3. And we both decided to build them identically and give them both the same footprint. It worked out real well. And of course, the DMR repeater that's up there that belongs to KC9VKV has exactly the same footprint also, because it's on the same combiners and antennas.
Roger, Roger. Now I hear the combiners only have like maybe a dB of insertion loss. Is that a Roger?
Well, I wish. No, industry standard for a combiner or a set of duplexers is usually about 3 dB loss. Although these tuned up to about 2.7 dB loss, and one channel's even better than that. But of course, they're excellent combiners, or EMR combiners, and they tuned up real well. I've got no complaints about them at all.
Roger, Roger. So you have 3 transmitters on that one antenna?
Yep, 3 transmitters through a 5-channel combiner. There's 2 channels there that are disconnected. We're not using those at the moment. All on one transmit antenna.
That's great. That's great. And what was the gain factor on the antenna itself? I forgot.
The antennas are decibel antennas, 11.3 dB.
Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that is my favorite go-to repeater. It's very BAOFENG friendly, Roger.
Yeah, well, it's like I say, we're just lucky to be able to have it up there, and hopefully it'll be there to stay for quite some time. But of course, as politics change, so does everything else.
Roger. Well, you have exercised due diligence by moving your electronics onto the ground floor, Roger.
Yeah, well, as you get older, it's tougher to maintain things that high up in the air. And the elevator's been there ever since the tower has, and the tower's been there since 1964. And it's not one of their items that they do diligent maintenance on, I should say. I guess we probably use it more than they do, and since they don't use it that much, they don't do anything and I maintained most of the troubles that were on that elevator. Well, I can't say we did, both of us. The technician over there, John Bradshaw, when he worked over there, the transmitter chief, before he retired, he did a lot of work on that elevator. Why they had him doing it, I don't know, because he's not an elevator technician, but it's seen a lot of miles, and we don't trust it very often. I've had to climb down that tower 3 times over the years, and it's taken its toll each time.
That's unbelievable. And what height did you climb down from?
From the top.
Was it 900 feet or so?
Usually from the platform, which is 886, and it takes about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours to climb down it, and it's just as tough climbing down as it is climbing up.
Now the question is, do you wear your belt coming down? I mean, that would be really, really difficult to in and out on the belt all the way down.
Well, at the time they didn't have that wire that goes down along the back side of the ladder or the front side of the ladder, depending on which way you're climbing it. But they make a belt that will slide right down that. You know, you can just hang on to it, slide it down as you go, and then when you want to stop, well, you let go of it, and it'll hold you in place. Or if you let go of the button, it'll grab. But there's enough little platform areas within the tower, up and down the length of it, that you usually have some place to stop and sit down on a beacon and just rest.
Roger that. Let's see, and wanted to ask you about, you were saying that you're doing 100 watts on your outputs now on the 444-200 and so?
No, those are 100-watt repeaters, but we don't drive them that hard.
Roger. How much? Excuse me. How much are you running now?
But we don't drive them that hard.
Roger. How much are you driving now?
Well, we get about 50 into the duplexers and about 25 out of into the combiners, and about 25 out of the combiners. And of course, whatever loss you get out of the coax going up 850 feet, and then of course you turn around and multiply that times the gain of the antenna, gives you your effective radiated power. So I guess equivalent effective radiated power would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 150 watts.
Roger. Well, I know on the far side of Shelbyville, coming in on the car, I was using a UV5R, a BAOFENG, and with a rubber ducky antenna inside the car, and I was hitting the repeater just fine. So I would say the transmit power is about reciprocal with the receiver sensitivity.
Well, like I say, the receiver multi-coupler up there, and then it's got a bandpass filter that I've tuned it down so that it rejects everything outside of a certain frequency range, which is the input frequency range for those 3 repeaters from 442 to 440. 445 to 450, I think is what I got, or 449, something like that. 441 to 449, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. But there's about 5 megacycles spread up there that it passes frequencies and rejects all the rest of them. Then there's a preamp up there that preamplifies that signal before it goes into that multi-coupler, and then out of the multi-coupler into the receivers. So the receivers themselves are not the hottest receivers in the world, but they make the same specs in the amateur bands as they do in the commercial bands. As a matter of fact, those repeaters, to my knowledge, there's nobody else around anywhere that's got one in the amateur bands that I know of. Not even up on repeater builders do they have anybody that says that they've got them working up there. And Kenwood said they couldn't be put in the amateur bands, but I enjoy a challenge.
Roger that. Well, I think they were just working beautifully there, and I want to compliment you on the 444-200. That's my favorite go-to repeater, and really enjoyed the Qso this morning, and thank you so much, sir.
No problem. Everybody likes to brag now and then, but Roger did an excellent job in all this too. He contributed quite a bit. He's my go-to guy when we have to go up on the tower up there. As we say, it's the only legal way to get high.
Roger that. Roger that. And we'll say threes for now. Thank you so much, Dave. N9CVA. This is KC9VKV.
Hey, Jim, see you later. I got things to do and places to go and people to see, so I'm on the move. KC9VKV, N9CVA. See you later.
See you later. KC9VKV, Claire.